We'll just see how it feels. We'll just see how it
Here we
feels.
go.
And
Recording progress. I know. I had an option there to quit, but I didn't take it.
oh, okay.
It said it's recording. Do you want to leave now
Well,
or?
let me just tell you the idea. I'm doing this website also because I'm trying to take it outside of the exhibition, um, which is called Stories of Influence in Search of One's Own Voice, oneself. And there's been some discussion that this exhibition should be about me. And I said, well, it is about me, but I'm also celebrating elder mentors, people who have somehow influenced me in one way or another, people that I've met, and I just would like to, through my retrospective, share these people. And so the criticism is about, well, keep it about you, Todd. It's about you. And I said, yeah, it's about me, but it's about me through these other people. And I feel I'm a product of all these people. That's what my retrospective is about, rather than just showing just my work. So, I've been showing, like, if I've asked a photographer to send me an image, I put an image next to that person's, and it becomes like a diptych. Then I have photographers, musicians, poets, people like yourself, artists who also curate. It's a wide range of people from 1967 till now. So I've gone very deep into it, and it's working. It's somehow it's making sense.
Sounds so interesting.
It's really really nice.
When
And
people say they want it to be you, this is you. I mean, you're a sum of all your parts. You're not just one part. You know what I mean? It's
right,
very interesting.
right. But I mean, the person that I'm working with the website, he's concerned that I'm putting too much attention on the other, like you
I don't
and,
know.
and others who I'm going to be interviewing. And I said to him, I said, Peter, it's important that these people that I'm bringing into my retrospective, if someone were to want to know more about them, they can go to a bio sheet, see maybe a picture of them, see a short bio, and a little statement like I've asked everybody to do. And it's coming out really nice. I'm getting a rainbow of ideas. And so we've decided to take it into a website and see how we can make it even go outside of me, the exhibit, the people I've invited. And so that's what this is, an experiment to try to see where it takes us. And I said, well, maybe I could do a Zoom with some people. I could ask. I have friends in different parts of the world, and you're in Amsterdam, and so I would just like to start it. Just maybe just give us a little brief, your name and where you live, or what, if you want to say that, or a little bit of your background on what you're doing now.
Well, I'm Eva DeCarlo, and I grew up in New York, and I lived in New York for a long time. And then I've lived in other countries. I've moved around a lot, a bit of a gypsy, and I settled in Amsterdam some years ago. And yeah, I've been living and working here now for some time. And I'm an artist. I started with um, when I was young. I was doing. I'm sort of an idea person, so it was sort of hard for me to find a medium that sort of suited my ideas. I wasn't very good at like a drawing, which where I was, it was sort of how you would judge if you were a good artist. Like you start with basic drawing classes, and and you fail them all. It's not really a good feeling, or like D minus minus minus. But I ended up getting in with film and video, which I liked very much, and I felt like I could show my ideas. It was visual, and that's where it started off. But I liked very much making installation work on site and using materials that I found on site. And so yeah, it was a bit of a combination of both. And yeah, sometimes I go this way and sometimes I go that way. It depends on the inspiration.
Very nice. I'm just going to run a few ideas, questions by you. Like, of all the people who's worked and lived have most influenced you, which one is least obvious in your work?
That's an interesting question. Of course, I assumed you were going to say the most obvious, so the least obvious. That influenced me a lot. Well, then it wouldn't be an artist, probably. It might be like somebody like my father, who just was always very encouraging of me and of, to do what I wanted to do, and just, you know, yeah, just encouraged you to be like sort of an individual and not worry about it. That you go around the track once and do it your way. And that sort of thing. And it's not there enough, probably. But if I were to say how great an influence, I mean, but I don't know what he would have even thought of my work. Um, he died before I was really sort of developing a lot of it, and I think I don't know what he would make of it. He was somebody who could draw very well and that sort of thing. He was more traditional, and I think sometimes he'd say, yeah, maybe you should find something to fall back on. But it's okay. I
Was
think
he
that
was he an artist?
no, but he was. I mean, he made furniture, so he was more of a craftsperson. He's more of somebody with skill and taste. He wasn't doing like the kind of art that I do, making nests or videos, and doing things that were you know not practical or not the fine arts.
So he was more like I mean, there's a word called amateur, like someone
No,
who
he's a craftsman. He was a craftsman. He's a
craftsman,
furniture maker. Upholstery, furniture
furniture
maker.
maker. Okay,
Yeah, he started making jewelry when he was young, and then I went over to furniture. So but he was a craftsman, I'd say, someone with good taste. Italian craftsman, that sort of.
I
Um,
noticed that there's a lovely pendant or something around your neck.
oh, thank you. Yeah, like not related to my father, but
Quite nice.
thank you.
Um, Influence comes from people other than individuals, right?
Yes.
In some fields as your own. Who are some of the people not working in the same field as you who might have influenced you? And you were sort of talking about that in terms of your father. And it's so interesting that you said that because I'm dedicating my entire show, this particular show, to my step grandfather, Joseph Sukan, who it's just interesting when I'm talking to people how a lot of times the first place that they talk about influence is someone who's like from their family.
Yeah, as someone because love is a great inspiration and a great seed and a great watering of that seed, and how things begin. I mean, it's with love, I think. Later you may use concepts and experiences that are painful, that you observe, or that you feel, or you feel yourself that you experience. But I think in the beginning, I mean, when you're developing, I mean, that early like love that you feel and that you treasure, that builds up who you are, that you're able to take steps forward, I think. Yeah, I had that too with one of my grandmothers, and she's just like a marvelous person. You met her. I don't think you remember, but you met her, because anyone who knew me would end up meeting somehow my father or my grandmother, because
A
it just
natural,
worked that way.
a natural thing to do in your
Yeah,
family.
yeah. But then outside, I try to be sort of, a lot of things about social justice and so really affect me, and I don't mean that in like, you know, I'm not an activist, but my own way. When I see something that I think isn't fair or is going wrong, it so overtakes me that when I'm making my art, I mean, a lot of that comes into it. Which then isn't really family related, and isn't maybe particularly that I could point to an artist who influenced me. But I know that when you're talking about a non-artist, I would also say things that influence me is like, like what's happening with the environment, and that doesn't like forever, or people like in New York, like with the homelessness, which is also to me been like forever. I remember as a teenager, like seeing people, sleeping on the sidewalk and people just keep talking, stepping over them, and just as if like they're not even there. And those kind of things are very disturbing to me, and that, those are sort of influences for me, certainly with nature and with people in nature. Sometimes other issues come in and out that might be immediate, but that's something that has been since I first started making art, and still now. Right now, I'm working on something that's with sort of nests and the ideas of refugees again. That you're fleeing from your home from no wish of your own, and you like needing a safe place to rest your head. And I think that's really a core thing for humanity, and that we should all be kind to each other. I mean, it's just crazy. Children fleeing home, and then that idea of, running, and what do you take with you, like you say about this necklace. That's also something I'm sort of addressing, that, I meet these young Syrian men, and like the only thing they have is maybe like a little gold chain around their neck. And it's just like from so long ago, people who were fleeing, they maybe consciously take a little piece of gold because they could resell it. It had commercial value, but it had sentimental value. It might have been a family piece. And then they wear it around their neck. And I said, my God, these young, tough kids, like that's what they ended up fleeing with. Like their phones were like, I don't know what happened to them or this or that. But in the end, I mean, they had that chain around their neck, and they'd say how, they got it from their grandfather or whatever. And it was the only thing they had. And I thought, oh, that's still happening. So like, what do you take, that chain? But then I was also thinking like the chain would like choke you maybe with that history, that it's a very heavy chain. So I don't know. Anyway, it just came from my studio, and I'm working really hard on this. Um, I had a studio offered to me, and I was really happy about it. And the day before I was supposed to move in, it was an arts in residency, and they asked me that they had been asked if they could put some refugee families in the house. And they said, we know it's yours, and we know you're really happy about it, and you can say no, but we could put 2 families with children in there. And of course I could do it. I mean, and on one hand, it wasn't easy because I was like so happy about this that I got it. But on the other hand, I mean, come on, fleeing from war. I mean, it's of course take the house. So that became even more part of my work when I they said to me, look, we didn't want to tell you before, but we'll do everything we can to find something else for you. And they did.
That's good. That's good karma. Let me tell you, that's good karma.
The whole proposal that I had made of the kind of work I was going to do there, like just changed completely. I mean, I just became so consumed about these people, and how happy I was that they had this house. I mean, it was a real home. I mean, it was a studio, it was arts residency, but I mean, it wasn't a tent or in an office or somebody's spare bedroom. They had a house for themselves. Really nice. So anyway, I think I might be wandering.
Were your parents born in America?
Yes, my grandparents weren't, but my parents were.
And your grandparents were from where?
Italy.
Which part?
Well, southern Italy. Um, my mother's father was from Sicily, and my mother's mother is from Napoli, and my father's family is Calabria.
Oh, beautiful. Whom living but not especially dead would you most like to meet and why? And if you could meet them, what would you basically talk about?
Somebody I would like to meet.
Living or dead? I mean, if
Oh, living or dead.
yeah, not especially, living but not especially dead. It could be,
Not especially dead. Um, gosh, there's some people who, like I would love to see my old mentors again who died, or my father who died, to say like, look, 30 years later, 20 years later, I mean, look, I mean, and talk about when I was, the last conversation I had with them, I was so young, and I feel like now I'm starting to like remember so many things that they said, or that, It would be the same cycle. I don't know that I could think off the top of my head of somebody new that I would like to meet to talk to. It would be more of like meeting people from long ago that is not possible to speak to.
From other centuries, maybe, or
Yeah, from my lifetime, from maybe, ancestors I never met, that sort of thing.
something happened to your mic. Maybe you could.
Oh dear, I
Oh,
don't
there you
know.
go. There you go. That's better.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry. You were saying about centuries.
No, I was saying, it could be ancestors, for example, you know what I mean? That I've never met. I have no idea who they are or what they did of my own ancestors. No idea. I don't go past my great grandparents. I have no idea. But that's not so interesting to me about myself. I really don't know. Hard for me to say something off the top of my head besides some people who left my life too young. But I don't have a famous person off the top of my head that I think.
Okay, that's
Aren't
okay.
very many people that I wouldn't like to meet and talk to, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Everybody has something to say, and it's very curious.
Can you elaborate that a little bit? Just that sounds nice.
It's interesting how many people I feel like when you were talking also about the different people that influenced you, how many people can influence you like in a fabric. I don't see everything of being the same textured thread, like they're all artists, or that they're the same color thread, like they're all this group, like a bloodline or something like that. But that it's this mix of like these snippets of experiences and conversations that you hear or learn from people who are really nothing like you, and different age group, a completely different background, and things that are very unexpected. And I think it's really interesting to engage in conversation. Somebody might be sitting next to you at I don't know, in the train, or something that's like somebody.
Like in the pat and just in passing.
Exactly, exactly. Like the way sometimes I think that I mean, I've never done this. It's not my thing, but like when sometimes you see like people like yourself and other people who are sort of street photographers, and they have these moments like there's somebody just looking in a window at that moment, or with a longing expression, or wringing their hands, or I don't know, there's these stories that you pick up just for a second, and they're like complete stories in that 1 second. And some of those images, I mean, they really stay with me. I feel like I learned something from them, from that person's experience, but actually it was like your photo of that person, like your the work I love so much of yours is those prophets, and when you see them, I mean, it's like that to me. It's like more the kind of discovery of the unknown and people unknown to me. I mean, that's like I want to go out and make new friends. It's not like that, but I like to listen and learn, and like meeting different refugees, especially, is sort of extraordinary. People who've had to leave from war, from different backgrounds, and how differently different people handle it.
It's it's funny because I basically was invited to Washington D.C. about a year ago, and there were 12 women who just landed from Afghanistan from the first the first wave of refugees that were coming to the states, and they were landing in D.C. And one was the first woman uh, music conductor, the first woman in Kabul.
Wow.
She was one of them, and there were a few journalists. They were all kind of high profile people living in Afghanistan. They had to get out. They had to leave their entire families. The families told them to go, and they got out, and most of their families are still in Afghanistan. And I got to photograph them and meet them, and it was very nice. And I sort of identify with what you're saying. and I've been interested in, of course, in people who are in the diaspora and just having to leave their homeland.
Exactly. It's very different than my background is like immigrants. My family were immigrants, and New York is a place of immigrants. You go to school with other kids who are immigrants or from immigrant families. But then this really turned the channel in the last years here living in Amsterdam, where you're meeting refugees, which is a totally different vein of immigrants. And in my life in New York, I mean, we didn't, and also living in Amsterdam, where you still have bunkers, and I mean, it's like so immediate here, which we didn't have in the States. And for me, at least, World War II, of course, there's the horrible tragedy, all the deaths and the Holocaust also, but there was a sense with the Americans that we won the war, and the heroic, and the people who I met came safely, to grandparents of friends of mine or whatever, came safely to the United States. I mean, of course, with scars, but I was sort of removed from it in a way. They were more the stories of people who made it there, and we won the war. And when you come here, and it's like so immediate, it's like how I feel like it's reversed with racism. Like in the United States, it's so in your face. Like you could see where people were sold, you could see where people were lynched, you could see where they came in. You can see that. You don't see that in Holland because it wasn't here on their soil. They had slaves, but it was far away. And I feel like the reverse is true about victims of war. That I feel it's so much more being here. And of course, I've had a lot of contact lately in the last 10 years or so with refugees, volunteering time, and also now I just had the experience. They were Ukrainian people, and a single woman with two very small children, and parents with three small children. Intense. They're not safe. I mean, they weren't people like you're talking about with high positions who had to go. These are people who, you know, their neighborhood was being bombed.
Yeah, these people they had to leave because
Right, right,
otherwise they would have been
right,
killed. You know.
right. Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. These two, they don't. I know they don't know for sure. It's not quite the same sentence on their head, but one guy who I had living with me for a while was from Damascus. I mean, his whole street was bombed.
Oh God.
He lost like everyone. He wasn't home at the time.
Is that your phone?
That's my phone. I'm trying to ignore it, but I think it's my son, and he's going to keep doing it until I.
Oh, okay. You want to talk to him?
If he rings it again, I'm just going to tell him that
Okay.
I have to call
Okay.
him back. But now maybe he's stopped. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Give him a big hug for me.
Simon, sweetheart.
Give
Sounds like
Simon give Simon a big hug for me.
okay.
I really enjoyed our visit when we went to visit him. I really enjoyed that very much.
Yeah, it's a very special place. It's really interesting. Yeah, meeting all of those people. Yeah, it's really, really nice. Your friend is doing well still?
Yeah, well, he's graduated. He was at a special living situation up in Hudson, New York, called Tri
Right,
Farm, and now
right.
he's graduated to a more permanent living situation with a roommate in New Haven, and
Okay.
it's different. The other place was
A
more like
big
yours.
transition.
Yeah, it's more. The other place was more like your son, where they farmed and they did creative things, and now he's learning how to prepare his own food. He's not living with a family anymore. It's him and a roommate. It's kind of amazing, actually.
Wow.
His name is Cheney, and he's also in my show. I consider
Oh,
Cheney
good.
I consider Cheney a mentor, and
Yeah, I would love. Oh, I'm going to get to meet him through your show. See, that's the great thing, also, because I've heard of him through you, and and I get to see something maybe that he did, or something, hear something he said, or read something about him, and I'm going to be enriched. He will influence me, maybe. It's
that's great. That's great. Um, Suffering profoundly affects everyone, right? We've been talking a little bit about that.
yes,
if and you seem to be comfortable sharing your experience, um, can you just elaborate a little bit more? I mean, it sounds like this idea of suffering is sort of entering, or it's always been in your work, it seems. I'm learning that actually. Is that making any sense to you, what I'm saying? That
Does
question?
it sort of gives me a jolt because I don't think of it as as coming from a suffering place, but I think it's probably true. I think it's probably true. I don't know. I would like to alleviate suffering, I think, and suffering. I mean, true suffering is such an intense human emotion, and I guess it really does interest me. And maybe it's for some reason something I don't escape. I don't mean personal suffering, but I mean that.
Suffering in the world, human
Yeah,
suffering.
exactly. It's yeah, and then sometimes it crosses your path quite closely, and yeah, the suffering of the world. It's true. I don't know. One time when I first met my ex-husband, he said to me after a while, he said to me, "You're such a you're like a suffering Madonna. There's some, but he's like a beautiful suffering Madonna, like a Madonna that goes through like um, sort of blessing like the suffering or something." And he's I guess that's your Italian Catholic background. And I thought, and I never put any of all of that together. Do you know what I mean? That like, but with that Catholic Italian background, there is a lot of that. With the thorns and the blood and all that stuff. And a beauty at the same time, because that's the thing, how they would get you. I mean, as a child, went into that church. I mean, I didn't understand a lot of it was in Latin, but those colored glass windows with those shafts of beautiful colored light coming through, and the organ playing, and they would have that incense going through, and those flowers everywhere, and these beautiful statues, and I was you know, just sold. I mean, it was such a beautiful thing, and yet everything was about like suffering, punishment, and you go to hell, and you know, father's gonna go to hell, and your mother's gonna go to hell, and they're all gonna go to hell, and, for eternity, and it's heavy. It has
It is,
like really,
it is
there's
heavy.
something to be said for that, but I hadn't ever really put that together all. But
Could you give me an example of maybe how all these things that you're sort of feeling comes out in a piece of work that you've done? Is there something that you could share with us that, or maybe you sounds like you're working on something, or
what I did, what the first work that well, in the beginning, like I said, I was doing film and video, which was quite different. That I feel like is more observing. Um, that's a part of me that likes to observe and likes to listen. And then the work that I was making that was sort of inside out more was I was making human sized nests, in New York, um, and making them from materials like if it was, on a street, then it would be materials from that neighborhood, or if it was in an abandoned building, only from materials that I found in that abandoned building. And they were, um, and that had a lot to do with it, like seeing the homeless people for one thing, and also trying to make them as nests as this sort of very natural element in a very hard urban environment,
Mhm.
and how nests in nature, like you don't see them often unless you're very observant, because they're sort of camouflaged purposely to be protected from the enemy, but also that they're made of materials that are there. So they're and I really like that there would be this place of refuge that you could go to a nest. I mean, where that would be you would be safe and not.
I think your mic went down again.
Okay,
There you go.
my computer on my lap. It's not so
Ah, I
smart.
got the computer on your lap.
It's
Okay,
really literally a laptop for me.
there you go.
I'm
Um,
not comfortable sitting at a desk with a computer. So yeah, so I started making these human-sized nests. So and throughout my work making art, I come back and forth. That it seems to somehow always return to that kind of trying to find like a dwelling, like a safe place to sleep, to to dream, to have ideas, to recharge, to
Say that one more time because there was static. That sounded nice.
a safe.
Dreaming, some sort of dreaming you were saying. Oh, now you're silent. Now you're silent. Can you talk?
Safe place. Can you
There
hear
you
me?
go. Now I can hear you. Now I can hear you. No, I lost you again. Somehow it's going away.
Yeah, I don't know why.
There it is. Now it's good.
Okay.
Hello?
Oh yeah. Um, you probably have it on the recorded.
That's good. That's very good. What would you if I mean if artists working, you know, is there some sort of thinking about a legacy that you would like to leave?
No, no, there isn't. Even in the work that I do, the work that I like the most, and one of the things, kind of working on two series right now. One of them because I suddenly was confronted with refugees again and homelessness again, and the whole thing. I'm making a series on that, but also I'm in the woods making some other work, and I really think it should just deteriorate along with the rest of us. When people say, "Oh, but how is it going to last?" And I think it's not. Neither you, neither am I. It's not. I don't know. I think a lot of time artists, especially these artists, mostly male, who make these huge, giant sculptures that you can't even get around. It has to do with immortality, and it doesn't interest me in a way that I leave any mark behind. I just have to tell my son that I'm talking
Okay,
to you.
go on.
Just sit
Saying
back.
is that I guess that's part of being a mom,
I guess so.
I mean, which is pretty awesome. I mean, talk about
So,
creating another human being and just having that's like the ultimate creation. I mean, in a way. I once heard Louise Nevelson giving an interview, and the journalist was saying, to her, what is it? Could you describe what it was for her to create a work of art? And I was in Maine at the time where I was teaching with Ernst Haas at the workshop. And Ernst was passed away by this time, and I was there just teaching myself. And I was looking at the radio, and she said, "Oh well, giving birth to a child is like making a work of art." And I looked at the radio, and I said, "God, how am I gonna ever feel like? Am I gonna ever feel that? How am I gonna feel giving birth to a child? Being a male?" And then I started investigating it, and I started hearing things that men do feel something when a woman is giving birth. Like there is something happening to the male. It's not giving labor, but there's sort of some
for
side.
sure, but that's part of that immortality. I think that men see through their sons and their daughter. Especially through their sons, that their line is being carried on, and it's just immortality. I mean, a lot of artists, well, not a lot of artists. That's big, but I remember being in conversation with a group of interesting artists who none of them had children, and we're saying that their work was their kids. I mean, like Namjoon Paik and Stain and Woody Fuzulka and Joseph Boyce and this was like kind of all those people, and they were naming even more people that they knew, and saying,
That didn't
yeah,
have
so
children.
doesn't have kids
That didn't
either, and
have children. That didn't have children.
right,
Yeah.
and they saw that their work was it. You know what I mean? That they put that time and that energy and that in their work.
Hmm. Um, just a side thing. It might interest you. I don't know if you know this. Maybe I mentioned it to you, but I've been since I moved to State Street, which is about, I don't know, 7 years ago or so, 7, 8 years ago. There's a Zen temple just down the street, and I've been studying art practice with a monastic there.
Really?
Her name is Hojin, yeah, and I've been using meditation for years in my work because I when I studied with Ernst, I mean he called it meditation with open eyes, and I've used that technique, and it's helped me in a lot of ways. It's almost like working in sort of, and I think many artists find themselves getting into sort of a state of trance, and then something, they get into a meditative state. Ernst called it meditation with open eyes. But so I started going to the Zen Center, and that you can sit in the morning at 6:30, and you sit for 20 minutes, and then another 20 minutes, and then there's another sit in the afternoon, and they have sits on Sundays, and then there's an art practice that takes place every Friday at 10:30 a.m. till about noon, and you can join online, and you might enjoy it. You might enjoy Hojin, and I mean, I enjoyed that. There's not only artists who are in this. There's all kinds of people who, and it's through Zoom, and it was happening before Zoom, but then the pandemic came, so she went into the Zoom, and there are people from all over the place joining in on this art practice. She gives prompts, and then people go off and they work for 20, 30 minutes, and then everybody comes back into the Zoom and shows what they've done. And she works a lot with the materials around her. And we've just entered a period called Ongo, which is a 90-day period where you basically uh, work on a deeper commitment to your practice in Zen meditation. It's called Zazen, and she does it through art practice too. But if you're interested, I could send you the link, and you could just check it out. You could probably come
What
in.
time is it on
Yeah,
Friday?
it's 10:30 a.m., so it's what,
Oh,
4:30.
okay. Yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah.
4:30 p.m. your time, and
Because I
it's
just had interesting. I had just heard about something like that, but it was at 7 in the evening, and I thought, oh, I don't think I could do that. It'd be like 3 in the morning for me. But
well, they
okay,
have
so
a
more
sit. They have a
information.
European sit at 7. They have
No,
an
no, that 10:30 is kind of nice.
No,
I'll
no.
look
I'm
at it.
just saying.
Send me
I'm
the
just
link.
saying they have an everyday sit, a European group. It's a small group, and when I was in Europe, I would join them because
Oh,
It's a Zoom thing. It's just a
yeah.
sitting thing. It's not like the art practice thing. But yeah, I'll send you the stuff. Maybe you'll find it interesting. This particular monastery, which was founded upstate in Tremper, New York. I don't know if you know where that is, Mount Tremper. It's near
No,
Phoenicia, near Woodstock.
I
But
know Phoenicia this
it
stuff.
was
Yeah.
founded by a person who studied with Minor White, and it was actually founded on the arts. This particular monastery that does this Zazen
And
meditation.
it's called Mount Tempar, you say?
Mount Tremper is the
Oh,
town.
Tremper.
Yeah, it's Zen Mountain Monastery is the place up there, and they have a temple down here right across the street from where I live called Fire Lotus Temple. But I'll send you the link. Maybe it'll be
Okay.
interesting.
Yeah, I am interested. Send me the link.
But to kind of sum up a little bit,
Mm.
I don't know if you could leave a couple words about, you know, if you were sharing this idea of influence to someone who might hear this, on our website, um, what would you like to share with them?
Well, that I think that influence isn't from the expected places, like if you're a musician and then your influence is that, the musicians that you admire or, and going down that path or, um, but in the most unexpected places, to be very keen with to listen, and to look and, that will give you your own character and build your character and not be looking for influences in other people's footsteps. It always surprises me when people ask a singer who is their biggest influence, and they'll say a singer, and I think to myself, like, really? I mean, you would think that it would be something else that brought you to sing with such emotion or passion. It could have been a singer, but you know what I mean. I'm just saying that for me, it's more in something that's sort of not directly related to your goals.
That's beautiful. Well, I appreciate your time with this. I think it's going to be great, and I'll keep you posted on it. I mean, you're actually the second person that I've
I'm
done
so
this.
bad at it, Todd. I'm so self-conscious and I'm so bad
Yeah,
at
it's you
blah,
were
blah, blah, blah,
great.
blah. It's like,
You were great. You were great, and I'm sure it'll touch someone.
I just love what you're doing. First of all, I've always loved what you're doing, and I love all of your ideas and the way that you share them, and even the concepts are about like sharing and observing. And now the way that you're doing this, it's as if you're writing an autobiography, but instead of having I was born here and then I did this and I did that like autobiographies are, it's like you have these all these little short stories, that makes you who you are. And I love that. And of course, we have a better picture of you than if you gave us just the facts, ma'am. Do you know what I mean? Like just like your photos and your vision, but showing little vignettes of how that vision developed is so generous of you and so special and makes anyone who wants to know you will know you and appreciate you even more. I can't wait to see it. I mean, even your friend you were just talking about, Cheney, is it? Cheney?
Yeah, Cheney. I call him Shayna Love, but Cheney. Yeah.
Yeah. See, for example, and I'm sure there's more people like that be introduced to, and it's like a bouquet, like you're offering somebody a bouquet, all different wildflowers. There's weeds and there's hothouses flowers and there's all different bouquet that everyone touched you. It's so nice. It's you
Well,
though, Todd. It's very generous. That you should say when people say, "Why are you doing this?" Say, "Because I'm a mensch."
well, all I can say is that you know I'm inspired by all the people that I've included in this, and they leave me, and they've given me. So I think it's a two-way street in a way. It's what I get is what I give. And when I finish these sort of kind of like these little talks that I'm doing, is I ask people to just touch the screen with their finger. Um, kind of like just come to the screen, and if you can, and just
Yeah,
touch the screen. It's a way of both
maybe
of
I have
us
to try other hand. Hmm.
both of us just kind of like uh, touching the screen. It's a way of,
Oh, I have to go by the camera. You're a camera guy, you know that.
yeah, you go right by the camera and you just touch the screen. It's a way of touching you in this virtual Zoom.
Beautiful, beautiful. I never thought of that before.
Well, you got to come on this side. You know,
See,
you got to
you
come on this
influ-
side.
you influenced me, Todd.
What's that?
You influenced me,
I hope so.
of course.
Well, I'm inspired by your stuff too, and that I'm just knowing a little bit of what you're doing there in Amsterdam and how you picked up and left your country to move to another country is pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
And I know some of the history and why, and but still
yeah.
you did it. But still you did it. It's not an easy thing to do.
I miss my New York sometimes. I really do. I have to say, I'm a real New Yorker, but what the heck?
Well, you'll come when you want to come, and we do come there, and I'd love
I
coming.
want you to. I can't wait for you to come again.
Yeah.
I love
Well,
that Strangers Next Door project. I mean, maybe we cook up another project to do here on the
you're
street.
good
I
at
like
you're
very
great at
public.
that. You're great at that, and I'm sure you're really good at that. And I'm sure that's a whole nother side of you, your curatorial expertise, and it's because you love things and you're curious. I think that's really, if someone were to say to me, how can you describe Ava? And I would say she's probably one of the most curious people I know.
I'm curious, but I think that's you. You are too. That's why. I mean, I can remember seeing you. Sometimes I was just on the street in New York at like something that was going on, like a protest or just something, and there you would be with your camera dashing about. But you looked so interested and also kind of so happy. I mean, even if it wasn't like a happy thing happening, like you were really like in the moment. And I always really love that about you. So many people who do their work they look like they're doing the work because like they have to get it done in a way. And you were like always like, I'd see you and you just look so excited,
Yeah.
by what's happening in front of you, what's on the street, what's going on, It's so, and I want to be around people like that because I feel like it's contagious. Give me some of that. So I put my finger back on the screen. Give me some more of that.
Ava, we should just do this from time to time, anyways. You do pop into my head, and I do think about you, and hope you guys are
I
doing
had
well there.
just been thinking about you and talking about you to somebody when I got that message from you. It was so funny. And I said, well, maybe I'll call this guy. I said, yeah, I haven't been in touch with him. Yeah, I don't know. And then I was like, hi, it's Todd. I was just thinking of you. And I was like, oh, perfect.
Well, I'm going to figure out how to stop this thing. I think it's